My parents accused me of having an affair with my brother in law, kicked me out, and tried to ruin my career. But the truth that came out was shocking. Over the last 6 years, I have carved out a successful career as a senior programmer at a prominent software company. Despite earning more than enough to afford my own space, I have chosen to live with my parents, upholding the family values they cherish deeply. Their home is not just mine, but also that of my sister Emily, age 32, and her husband, James, 34. 3 years ago, James landed a job nearby, much to our parents' delight, prompting their move back in with us. The dynamic at home has always been complex. Emily, the perennial golden child, seamlessly excelled in life, marriage, and academics, often shadowed by the comparisons drawn between us since childhood. While I deeply love my sister, sharing a space has posed its challenges. Working remotely means constant oversight from our parents, who monitor everything from my video calls to my work schedule and break. Despite a detailed schedule posted on the refrigerator, my mother often disrupts my work with untimely interruptions, conveniently forgetting I'm in a meeting. Their invasive monitoring has become a normalized aspect of my daily life, which they believe is both necessary and normal. Meanwhile, my relationship with Michael, my 29-year-old boyfriend who lives on the other side of the country, has been a major source of support over our 3-year long-distance relationship. Yet, my parents have never warmed up to him, unfavorably comparing him to James, whom they adore like a son. They critique everything about Michael, from his decision to live on the West Coast to his career in software engineering, a field ironically shared by me, and even his fashion choices during our video chat. James, on the other hand, has always been kind and supportive. As Emily's husband, he has taken on the role of an understanding brother-in-law, often standing up for me during family dinners when my parents start criticizing my life choices. His defense not only highlights his empathy, but also underscores the solidarity we share amidst family pressures. Up until 2 weeks ago, everything seemed under control. Amidst a critical phase of a major software update I was overseeing, my parents abruptly called me into the living room with somber expressions. They confronted me with texts they found on my laptop, claiming these messages were proof of my attempt to initiate an affair with James. The timing could not have been worse. Shocked, I saw the messages were clearly fabricated or heavily edited. Some were outright fabrications, while others were snippets from professional communications twisted to look inappropriate. I tried to defend myself, explaining that I deeply love Michael and view James strictly as a familial figure, but they were dismissive. Despite offering to show them the unaltered message history, they refused to listen. My mother, tears streaming down her face, accused me of envying Emily's life and acting out rebelliously. My father angrily labeled me a disgrace to the family. In the heat of the most significant project of my career, they gave me just 24 hours to vacate my home, forcing me to gather my life in a day. Distraught, I reached out to my grandparents, who have always been a bastion of wisdom and support within our family. After I shared the true correspondence with them, they immediately sided with me without hesitation. They welcomed me into their home, provided a place to stay, and even helped me set up a temporary home office in their spare room so I could continue working. However, my father's fury escalated when he discovered I was staying with my grandparents. He confronted them at their home, accusing them of undermining his authority and enabling my supposed misconduct. When my grandfather stood firm, defending me against my father's accusations, my father left in a rage, vowing to never speak to them again. I was heartbroken, watching my usually stoic grandfather shake with anger from the confrontation. The situation worsened when my father began contacting my workplace, attempting to tarnish my professional reputation. This relentless pursuit added another layer of stress and despair to an already tumultuous time. My father escalated his attacks by sending emails to my manager and the human resources department, making wild accusations about my inappropriate behavior and questioning my mental stability. He even tried to convince them that I was leaking confidential information to our competitors. Thankfully, my manager has been supportive and my consistent performance at work has stood in my defense. Nevertheless, the situation has been profoundly stressful. Explaining these personal issues to my team has been both uncomfortable and humiliating. Amidst this turmoil, my grandfather, who was more than just a family elder to me, he was my confidant and my staunchest supporter, passed away suddenly yesterday. Losing him has been an unbearable pain. Adding to my grief, my parents chose not to attend his funeral. Instead, they went on a vacation. I learned from my cousin that they were posting cheerful beach pictures on Facebook While I was arranging my grandfather's funeral, a stark contrast to the somber tasks I was handling, seeing their joyful updates only deepened my sorrow. During this heartrending time, Michael took emergency leave from his job and flew in to be by my side. However, upon his arrival at my grandparents' house, my parents unexpectedly showed up. My father coldly questioned Michael's presence as if it were inappropriate, triggering my anger. I confronted them fiercely, questioning who they thought had managed all the funeral arrangements, supported my grandmother in her darkest hours, and stayed up late coordinating with the funeral home while they vacationed carelessly. Following my outburst, my father's demeanor shifted dramatically. The anger in his eyes was replaced by a chilling calmness. He suddenly expressed a desire to forgive and forget the supposed affair with James and proposed a reconciliation, but with conditions. He insinuated that he would allow me to stay with my grandmother only if he received what he deemed rightfully his. This alarming change in tone and his veiled demands left me deeply disturbed, realizing he was not just seeking reconciliation, but something more manipulative. My grandfather had made wise investments over the years, quietly amassing a substantial sum. After his passing, my father, driven by greed, brazenly demanded a share of the inheritance, oblivious to the fact that my grandfather had foreseen such an event. While sorting through my grandfather's study, we stumbled upon a note tucked away in his desk drawer with a simple instruction: call Bob. Bob, a longtime friend and my grandfather's attorney, had been a familiar presence throughout the years. Upon contacting him, we learned that my grandfather had left his entire estate to me, ensuring that every penny of his savings was now mine. The house was legally transferred to my grandmother, securing her a permanent home safe from any potential threats to her well-being. When I disclosed these details to my father, his composed demeanor shattered. Accusations flew, claiming I had manipulated my grandfather and turned him against his own son. His face reddened with rage as he spewed baseless allegations. In a desperate attempt to sway me, my mother chimed in with manipulative guilt trips, suggesting that I had tried to sabotage my sister's happiness and now sought to make them suffer too. Despite their provocations, I stood firm, respecting my grandfather's wishes and asserting that his decision was made with clear judgment. Reassured them that there was no conspiracy, and Bob, the attorney, could attest to everything. As they left, a mix of relief and sorrow washed over me. I was relieved that my grandfather had made provisions to protect us, yet saddened by the irreparable rift with my parents. Now, my focus is on rebuilding my life and caring for my grandmother. Throughout this ordeal, Michael has been incredibly supportive, providing comfort and strength during these trying times. Despite my efforts to move forward, I often find myself wondering if there was any way I could have prevented all this pain. This reflection leads me to seek advice on Reddit, where I hope to find some guidance regarding legal protections, as the inheritance has only escalated tensions, and I fear my parents might resort to drastic actions. Just days after my last update, the situation worsened significantly. My father escalated his attacks by not only meddling with my workplace, but also reaching out to our company's clients. I was made aware of this when a representative from one of our key clients discreetly brought up during a virtual meeting the concerning emails they had received about me, which they then forwarded to me. It was evident that my father was trying to sabotage my professional relationships by accessing our client list and making damaging claims. The emails painted me as an unstable individual involved in corporate espionage and exploiting elderly family members for financial gain. Alarmingly, he had disclosed details about client projects that he should not have known, leading me to suspect that James, who works at a partner company, might be feeding him information. Our company's legal department has taken immediate action. Given the potential damage to my reputation and the risk to business relationships, they treated the matter with utmost seriousness and issued a cease and desist letter to my parents. However, this legal intervention seemed to only infuriate them further. In retaliation, my parents started a widespread smear campaign against me on social media. They created multiple fake accounts to spread their narrative alongside posts from their personal profiles. The accusations became increasingly elaborate, now claiming that I had been manipulating my grandfather for years, orchestrating his investment strategies to benefit myself. This relentless defamation has left me grappling with how to protect my reputation and personal well-being against such aggressive family hostility. Unbeknownst to my parents, I uncovered a shocking secret amidst my grandfather's documents. Known for his meticulous planning, he had concealed a USB drive and a stack of papers in a hidden compartment within his desk. This cache included extensive evidence of what appeared to be systematic tax fraud and money laundering connected to my father's real estate ventures, corroborated by years of email exchanges with offshore accounts. I immediately contacted Grandpa's attorney, Bob, with the findings. His lack of surprise was unsettling. Grandpa had been methodically collecting evidence of every dubious transaction and questionable activity for years. The collection even included photographs of clandestine meetings with notoriously unscrupulous business figures. Bob explained that my grandfather had been amassing this damning evidence, waiting for the right moment to act. Among the most shocking discoveries was a series of emails that showed my father had been siphoning funds from his own parents' accounts, presumably under the assumption they wouldn't notice. However, Grandpa had been vigilant. Rather than confronting my father directly, Grandpa had opted to document his actions meticulously. Bob, now working with forensic accountants, is thoroughly examining this amassed evidence. He believes we possess enough material to pursue criminal charges against my father, while also safeguarding us from any legal retaliation they might attempt. I'm torn by these revelations. The idea of pursuing legal action against my own father is daunting, even if it is for justice. Furthermore, the findings shed new light on James's keenness to reconnect with my parents, revealing his involvement in email discussions about business schemes eerily reminiscent of Ponzi schemes. This leads me to suspect that the allegations against me involving James might have been a strategic ploy to undermine my credibility before I stumbled upon their illicit activities. Meanwhile, my mother has begun a daily campaign of calls to my grandmother, swinging between threats and emotional manipulation. Their latest tactic involves claiming my father's health is deteriorating due to the stress I've caused, insinuating that I would be held responsible for any resultant harm. Following Bob's advice, my grandmother has started recording these calls. We've also upgraded our cybersecurity measures and installed security cameras around the house to maintain our safety. Bob advised me to freeze my credit and help secure my financial accounts, anticipating that my parents might resort to financial sabotage when their intimidation tactics failed. The ongoing stress has inevitably impacted my work, but paradoxically, it has also strengthened my position within my company. After being apprised of my father's harassment, my manager became a stalwart ally, accelerating my transition to a fully remote role to ensure I wouldn't need to return to my parents' house. Michael has been a cornerstone of support through these tumultuous times, helping me establish a secure home office and a spare room at my grandmother's house, complete with backup systems and encrypted communications. In light of everything, we've begun seriously discussing Michael relocating to be closer to me. However, I'm hesitant, fearing it might provoke further hostility from my parents. To manage the emotional toll of these events, I started seeing a therapist. She's been instrumental in helping me recognize that the turmoil isn't my fault and it's natural to harbor both love and resentment towards my parents. Grasping that the parents I grew up admiring could be so duplicitous has been a harsh reality to accept. We are now waiting on the forensic accountants to finalize their analysis, and Bob is optimistic that within weeks we'll fully understand the extent of my father's financial misdeeds. As I brace for the possible outcomes, I know my parents will not take these revelations lightly. I've shared my story on Reddit, seeking advice and solidarity from others who might have faced similar familial betrayals. It's a strange relief to learn I'm not alone in this kind of family drama. Meanwhile, Emily showed up at our house unexpectedly this morning, presenting a startling contrast to her usual composed self. Disheveled and visibly distraught, she broke down in tears before I could even ask what was wrong. Through sobs, she revealed that James had been unfaithful. She had flown to Chicago to surprise him during a supposed work trip, only to discover him in his hotel room with another woman. The revelation from Emily's confrontation with James was even more damning than her discovering his infidelity. During their argument, she insisted on seeing his phone, which unearthed a web of deceit affecting our entire family. It turned out the incriminating messages that led to my expulsion were not authored by me. James had saved multiple mistresses' numbers under my name, using it as a guise for his affairs. Emily's shocking discovery escalated when she shared the details with our parents, whose response was heartbreakingly indifferent. Instead of supporting their distraught daughter, they advised her to keep quiet and work things out with James, prioritizing the family's public image over her well-being. They even suggested she forgive his infidelities to avoid the scandal of a divorce. But Emily found more than just evidence of betrayal. She stumbled upon emails on James's laptop linking him and our father in dubious financial schemes. They had set up several shell companies to siphon off funds from investors and evade taxes. James had manipulated his position in his company to funnel contracts to these entities at inflated prices. Following the money led to accounts in Switzerland and the Cayman Islands, with James keeping meticulous records of his meetings with various unknown individuals in a secret folder labeled insurance. This precaution was likely a safeguard against anyone who might threaten to expose him. As Emily disclosed these findings to me, it became clear that the recent attacks on my clients and workplace were desperate efforts to discredit me, fearing I might uncover their financial misconduct due to my tech background. Now, with Emily's marriage ending, she has moved in with us at Grandma's house. She's working with Bob to compile evidence for her divorce case and potentially incriminating our father. The transactions Emily unearthed matched the suspicious activities Grandpa had documented, indicating a long-standing pattern of financial impropriety by James, funded by illicit gains, which also financed his extramarital pursuits. The financial strain from James's lavish double life was why they moved back in with our parents, presenting a facade of closeness while scrambling to cover the costs of his secret indulgences. Throughout this ordeal, Emily has demonstrated remarkable courage. She has proactively engaged with the FBI to discuss her findings, which have piqued their interest due to the international scope of the financial fraud. The investigators have indicated that the potential financial repercussions of the case could reach into the millions. In light of these developments, our parents have shifted their stance, now claiming they were misled by James and were ignorant of his activities. However, the evidence we've gathered suggests otherwise, pointing to our father as the orchestrator of many schemes, with James merely serving as the facade. The emotional toll on Emily has been substantial. In recent times, we've found solace in each other's company, spending our evenings in deep conversation, a first in our adult lives. Emily has also started seeing a therapist to navigate her complex feelings. She has expressed deep remorse for not believing in me sooner and regrets how easily she was swayed by James and our parents. Recognizing her as another victim of their deceit, I've fully forgiven her. Grandma, ever the pillar of strength, has been immensely supportive. Sensing Emily's need for comfort, she offered her the master bedroom. Our small family, myself, Emily, Grandma, and occasionally Michael, has been bonding over dinner, finding unity, and creating new bonds from the remnants of past betrayals. The FBI investigation is ongoing with our full cooperation. Meanwhile, our parents are desperately trying to salvage their reputation, hiring expensive lawyers as the community slowly learns the truth. Former business associates of our father have started to come forward, sharing their experiences of questionable dealings. This entire saga has been a stark reminder of how reality can sometimes surpass the most elaborate fictions. Reunited with Emily, we now stand together stronger than ever. We are bracing ourselves for what might be a lengthy legal battle, but we take comfort in facing it together as a true family built on mutual support and honesty. The story's twist has sparked a broad conversation on Reddit, where I've shared updates and sought advice. It's led me to wonder if others have uncovered similarly deep-seated family secrets and how they dealt with the ensuing fallout. In a swift turn of events, the FBI made a dramatic move last Friday. My father and James were arrested during their regular business breakfast at their favorite upscale restaurant, a public action that underscored the severity of their alleged crimes. The day my father and James were arrested in front of the city's elite business community is one I'll never forget. The sight of them being led away in handcuffs shattered their carefully crafted personas of successful businessmen. A coordinated raid, striking their offices, our family home, and several unknown storage units, unveiled their illicit operations. The authorities uncovered evidence of a money laundering operation spanning 3 continents, complete with offshore accounts and decades of falsified documents. The estimated total of the fraud was over $50 million. Yet, the revelation that struck me most was about the insurance photos James had hoarded. Interestingly, James was not the only one with a penchant for keeping records. 3 of his former girlfriends who knew about each other had amassed their own dossier of photos, emails, and text messages from their relationships with him. They had been silently building a case against him for years and had been cooperating with the FBI for months, monitoring James's business trips, and documenting every transaction. When the arrest became public, my mother initially attempted to dissociate herself from any wrongdoing, claiming ignorance. However, her pretense crumbled when the FBI presented evidence of her active participation in laundering money through her charitable foundation. The lavish galas she hosted, ostensibly to raise funds, were revealed to be fronts for cleaning dirty money. The scandal received wide media coverage, plastering headlines like "Prominent Businessman and Son-in-Law Arrested in Multi-Million-Dollar Fraud Scheme" across local and national news outlets. Overnight, my father's reputation as a community leader and philanthropist evaporated. Their social fallout was immediate and severe. Acquaintances from charity events now deny ever knowing them. Their church stripped them of all committee roles, and the country club revoked their membership. In a bid to salvage their own standing, former business partners scrambled to cooperate with the investigation. James's company reacted swiftly by terminating his employment and pledging full cooperation with the authorities, revealing that he had been inflating contract prices and pocketing the excess. This further implicated him not just in family fraud, but in professional deceit as well.